We were never supposed to be part of the war. According to the Treaty of Seren 9, signed by over 200 intelligent species under the Galactic Empire's banner, humans were classified as a non-aggressive, developing race. That was the nice way of saying primitive and easily manageable. The Empire's bureaucrats thought they'd locked us out of warfare, politics and influence for at least another century. They said it was for our own good. But what they really feared was our unpredictability. For decades, Earth abided by the treaty. We sent diplomats, translators, and trade envoys. We exported our culture, our music, our food. But while the Empire was watching our artists and actors, they weren't watching our shipyards in the asteroid belts. They didn't notice how fast our AI learned to outmaneuver the best alien algorithms. And most of all, they didn't track the rogue fleets, the ones who didn't believe Earth should sit quietly while the stars were divided without us. I was born on one of those rogue ships. The Soul's Edge, a ship that didn't officially exist in any records. My name's Rafe Monroe, but most just called me Brat. Grew up in metal corridors, learned to fire a railgun before I could do algebra. I watched simulations of alien cruisers blowing apart our homeworld in what-if drills every morning. The grown-ups never told us what the drills were for, but we knew. One day we'd fight. The Empire made a mistake when they invaded Galvan's Reach. Galvan's Reach was an outer rim colony world. Technically not Earth territory, but founded by human settlers after the collapse. The Empire claimed it violated the treaty, said humans weren't allowed to colonize independently. They sent 3 Imperial cruisers to restore order. By the time their shock troops landed, they'd already killed 47 civilians from orbit. Just to make a point, what they didn't expect was that the Soul's Edge was docked in orbit. And she wasn't alone, 6 ships. That's what we had. 6 heavily modified, scrapped-together human warships. Not official. Not registered. Ghosts, as the Empire called us. Each ship was unique. No standard design. No single AI. Just human ingenuity, grit, and a whole lot of rage. The moment we saw the Empire drop plasma on the settlement, Captain Mireya turned to the crew. Her voice was calm, like always. We go loud. And just like that, the ban on human warships ended. The first thing we did was jam the local jump gates. No one in, no one out. That was our tech, illegal and untraceable. The Empire never thought we could control a star system. They were wrong. The Soul's Edge opened fire with a kinetic railgun so powerful, it split the lead cruiser in half before they even realized we'd broken the treaty. The second ship managed to get shields up, but humans don't fight fair. We boarded them using stealth torpedoes, man-sized missiles carrying strike teams. I was on the second one, and inside that ship, everything stank of control. Pristine walls, glowing data hubs, zero mess, alien order. Their soldiers looked at us like we were disease. I didn't blame them. We were screaming, bleeding, laughing maniacs by comparison. But that's what scared them. Humans don't fight for protocol. We fight for vengeance. When we took over the cruiser's bridge, Captain Mireya transmitted one message across the system. Open, unencrypted. This is the Soul's Edge. Speaking for no nation, no planet, no government. We speak as humans. You drew first blood. Now we finish it. That message went viral across the inner systems in minutes. Empire citizens had never heard humans talk like that. Hell, half the galaxy thought we didn't even have warships. By the time the third cruiser tried to retreat, the rest of our fleet dropped in from the dark side of the planet. 5 more rogue ships, including the Heartsbane and the Krakatoa. That one was made entirely from salvaged alien hulls and ran on a hybrid AI so unstable, it talked back during battles. We didn't just win that day, we rewrote the galactic playbook. The moment the last Imperial cruiser tried to retreat, I felt it. The shift. There was no ceremony, no declaration. Just silence across the system. Our fleet, ragged and pieced together from the rust of forgotten battles, now held the skies. The Empire had been humiliated. Not by a rival power, not by some ancient force. They were undone by a handful of humans they never even considered a threat. Captain Mireya stood on the command deck of the Soul's Edge, staring at the sensor feed like she was looking into the soul of a dying god. Pull back the strike teams. Begin salvage. Leave their wounded alive. I didn't understand at first. Why leave them alive? I asked. My suit was still wet with alien blood, visor cracked, heart racing. They'll regroup, come back stronger. They'll report, she said. Let them carry the story back to their masters. Let them see we don't just survive, we retaliate. Mireia knew what she was doing. We couldn't destroy the Empire, not yet. But we could infect it with fear, with uncertainty. With us, the Heartsbane hailed us. That ship was captained by Juno Way, a woman who once served in Earth's Navy before it was dismantled. She'd gone rogue years ago, built her own fleet from smuggled weapon systems and stolen Empire blueprints. Now she was one of our own. We cracked their command node, Juno said, calm as ever. Got access to internal Empire directives. Mireia raised an eyebrow. And? They're calling this incident a malfunction in command protocol. They're blaming a rogue AI in their own fleet. I laughed, bitter and tired. They can't even admit we beat them. They won't admit it, Juno corrected. The moment they acknowledge human warships exist, they have to accept we're back in the game. Then we make it impossible to deny, Mireia said. For the next 3 days, our fleet worked like machines. We hacked the Imperial comms grid, broadcasting fragments of the battle. We released every feed we had, helmet cams, ship logs, combat telemetry, onto the open network. Let the galaxy see humans, angry, bleeding, victorious. We uploaded it all to the Grey Web, the decentralized data net used by smugglers, rebels, and exiled species. No censorship. No control. Within hours, our footage had spread to over 30 systems. By the end of the week, we had fanatics, sympathizers, and copycat uprisings on 6 fringe worlds. The Empire tried to contain the spread, but it was like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. And in the middle of it all, we stood in orbit over Galvan's Reach, waiting for the Empire's answer. It came on day 5, a Dread-tier interdictor, Class Sigma, 8 kilometers long, a mobile weapons platform designed to suppress entire rebellions. The ship's name, Justice Through Order. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. We were still patching up our wounded ships when it arrived. I stood at the viewport staring at it like it was a god descending from the stars. This isn't a warning, said Rio, our chief engineer. This is an execution squad, and he was right. The Empire had sent a message of its own. We saw what you did. Now die for it. We had 13 ships total. They had one. But the Justice Through Order wasn't a ship. It was a statement. Carried a crew of 5,000, enough firepower to glass an entire moon. They gave us 1 hour to surrender. Mireia didn't blink. Scramble the AI, bring up the decoys. Call in the deep crew. We all froze. Even I, born and bred on the edge, had never heard her use that term. The deep crew, they were the ghosts of ghosts. Humans who disappeared from even our radar. Experimental pilots. Black Ops engineers. The kind of people who made the rest of us seem normal. Within minutes, encrypted signals pinged out through the quantum net. Calls went to dark zones, no return addresses, no confirmations, and then we waited. The Justice Through Order didn't wait long. Final warning, came the transmission. A cold artificial voice. Submit to decommissioning and turn over all unauthorized human combat vessels. This is not a negotiation. Captain Mireia stepped forward, patched herself into the outgoing channel. Hans simply said, funny. We weren't negotiating either. Then the sky broke open. They dropped a particle lance on our decoy ship, the Maelstrom. A beautiful piece of junk built from old mining rigs and decaying shuttles. It was unmanned, rigged with feedback loops. When it exploded, the feedback blinded the Justice's targeting array for 2.6 seconds. That was all we needed. Every human ship fired at once. We didn't aim for the Dreadnought's engines or weapons. We knew better. We aimed for the hull's psycho-reactive panels. Empire ships used living metal, a semi-sentient alloy that adapted to attacks. But we'd been studying that tech for years. And we knew one weakness. If you hit it with chaos, unpredictable, randomized pulses from a dozen different angles, it couldn't adapt fast enough. We overwhelmed it. And while it recalibrated, our strike pods launched. I was in pod 6. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from focus. We all knew this could be it, no backup. No more tricks, just us and a goddamn star killer. Our pod slammed into the hull and melted through the outer layer with thermite drills. Once inside, it was madness. Empire ships are designed for discipline. Straight corridors, airtight compartments, rotating guards. We brought anarchy, explosives, smoke bombs, audio disruption. We released synthetic pheromones to mess with their command species' nervous systems. They'd never fought humans in close quarters. They weren't prepared for how we fought. I saw a commander, 7 feet tall, covered in radiant armor, freeze as Rafe Tenner lobbed a sonic grenade down the hall and screamed, Who's laughing now? It was chaos. Beautiful, brutal chaos. We pushed toward the command nexus, fighting every inch of the way. I got hit twice, one in the leg, another near the ribs. But the adrenaline kept me going, then the power cut out. All lights. All gravity. The deep crew had arrived. They didn't use names. Just code names: Wraith, Echo, Ghost. They came through the ventilation shafts, cloaked in adaptive skin suits, weapons like nothing I'd ever seen. One fired a magnetic displacer that folded a corridor in half. Another used a liquid AI that reprogrammed the enemy's internal drones mid-battle. In 10 minutes, the ship was ours. Mireya's voice echoed through every deck. This is Captain Mireya of the Soul's Edge. We are humans. You were told we were harmless, that we were primitive, that we were divided. You were wrong. We do not seek conquest, but we will never kneel again. We spaced the Empire officers who resisted. We evacuated the rest, and then we did something no one expected. We didn't destroy the dreadnought. We renamed it, painted the words on its side in Earth script. Free. Will. Then we flew it back into Empire space with human flags. Flying, the message was clear: we're here. We're not waiting for permission. And we're taking our seat at the table, one way or another. The Empire didn't speak for 3 days, not a word. Not a broadcast. Not even a retaliation order. They just went quiet. And that was more terrifying than any fleet they could have sent. Because silence from the Empire, that meant calculation. Cold, brutal calculation. Behind closed doors, entire systems were probably burning while they decided how to erase us from existence without losing face. But the problem was, it was already too late. You don't unsee a human dreadnought flying into neutral space with free will painted across its hull in 20-meter red letters. You don't forget the sight of 13 ragged warships, thought to be extinct, holding orbit above an Imperial fortress. Like they owned the damn sky. We hadn't just attacked, we'd shattered the illusion, and across the galaxy. The cracks were spreading. Back on Soul's Edge, things had changed. We weren't ghosts anymore. Not to the Empire. Not to anyone. Our networks buzzed with encrypted requests, pirates offering safe harbors, black market engineers trading upgrades, even old Earth colonies long cut off from contact reaching out with stuttering, hopeful signals. The one I remember most was a message from a mining rig in the asteroid field of Delphas 4. A shaky voice. Maybe a kid, maybe a teenager, said, "We thought you were gone. We thought Earth gave up. But if you're still out there, we'll fight. Just tell us how." That's when I knew this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was a movement. And movements don't die easy. Still, we weren't stupid. We knew the hammer was coming. Captain Mireya stood in front of the holomap of known Imperial fleet movements. She circled 3 systems: Tralin, Voxis Prime, and Adraxi 7. "Empire's gathering forces here," she said. "We've intercepted their command routing protocols. 37 ships moving in tight formation. That's not a patrol, that's a siege force." "Coming for us?" I asked. "Worse," she said. "They're going after humans, any humans, colonists, traders, diplomats, doesn't matter. They're going to make examples." A slow silence fell across the room. "We poked the beast," Junoway said grimly, "and now it wants blood." "They want fear," Mireya corrected. "They want to remind the galaxy that resistance means extinction." She turned to the room. Her eyes burned with something sharp and cold. "Let's remind them that humans don't go quietly. We had 2 options, hide or escalate. We chose war." The next part of our plan wasn't glamorous. It wasn't about massive battles or heroic speeches. It was about connections. The Empire was big, but it was fragile. Too big to control from the top, which meant it relied on middlemen, minor governors, planetary enforcers, local admirals. And those were the cracks we could pry open. We split the fleet. 7 ships went dark, scattering across Empire territory. Each one had a target, a key node in the Empire's internal communications grid. Our goal was simple: turn their network against them. The Krakatoa infiltrated the data ring at Voxis Prime. That AI of theirs, Carl, rewrote entire routing protocols in under 6 minutes. By the time Empire ships realized something was wrong, half their fleet orders had been redirected to the wrong star systems. The Heartsbane hit Tralin's command post. They didn't attack, it was cleaner than that. They released a virus that replaced all official broadcasts with our footage. The Galvan battle, the boarding of the dreadnought, even messages from freed human colonists. Imagine watching Empire propaganda on your planet's info screens and suddenly seeing a scrappy human girl with blood on her face, smiling through broken teeth saying, "We're still here." Rebellion doesn't always come with guns. Sometimes it comes with hope. Back on the Soul's Edge, we weren't just coordinating. We were preparing, because Mireia knew what was coming. They couldn't ignore us anymore. So they'd do the next best thing, wipe us off the board. And when it came fast. 1 week later, the Empire launched Operation Silence Protocol. They didn't name it publicly, of course, but we intercepted the orders. They sent 92 ships across 3 task forces, aimed straight at us. The fleet that hit us came out of the dark edge of the Marlan Belt. They weren't standard patrols. These were eradication squads, ships designed to erase civilizations, not fight honorable wars. We were outgunned 10-1. Mireia looked over the tactical screen. Her face was unreadable. "They're not here to fight," she said. "They're here to make an example." "Then let's make ours first," Juno said. We activated Protocol Echo. The Deep Crew had been planning this for months. Even before Galvan, even before we took the Dreadnought, they'd anticipated something like this. Across the asteroid belt, dozens of seemingly lifeless rocks came online. Each one had been hollowed out. Filled with kinetic warheads, reflective jamming fields, and ghost AIs designed to mimic human ship signatures. To the Empire's sensors, it looked like hundreds of human warships had just warped in. They panicked. They split their formation. Some ships broke off to intercept the decoys. Others opened fire on empty space. And in that moment of chaos, we struck. Our ships were hidden, but not in space. They were inside the asteroids, buried deep, shielded, silent. We had waited 3 days without moving, without sound. When we struck all at once. Torpedoes launched from within the rocks. Railguns carved through cruisers. EMP bursts fried their targeting systems. And then, like a swarm of wasps, our fleet emerged. The Free Will, our stolen dreadnought, fired a full blast from its spinal cannon, slicing through 2 destroyers with a single beam. The sound of that cannon shook the edge like a thunderclap. And in that moment, I believed we could win. Not just survive, win. But war doesn't care about hope. We lost 2 ships in the first volley. The Manticore took a hit to the life support core and imploded. The Silver Drift went down boarding an Empire cruiser. I saw the hull buckle on the feed, heard the last scream of Captain Dre as their ship folded in on itself. We fought for 9 hours. 9 hours of chaos, explosions, fire, debris. Fields so thick you couldn't tell metal from bone, and then, finally, they broke the remaining. Empire ships turned back. Not because they feared us, because we made the battle cost too much. We didn't just win that day, we survived a slaughter they thought would be our end. And in surviving, we became something more than rebels. We became legend. After the battle, the galaxy changed. Imperial systems began locking down. Civil unrest broke out on 6 different core worlds. News couldn't be contained anymore. Every child with a hacked datapad now knew humans had warships again, and that we'd taken down the unbreakable. We didn't need to take over planets, we just needed to exist. We became the question every Imperial citizen began asking: if humans could fight back, what else is the Empire lying about? That was the fear they couldn't silence, and it was our greatest weapon. It took a single month for the galaxy to forget who the Empire was supposed to be afraid of. Before us, it had been the Varan Collective, the Myrathi Swarm, even the Aculi Singularity, a hive-mind AI system that had nearly corrupted half the galaxy's data flow. But we had done what none of them could. We humiliated the Empire from within. We didn't challenge them with fleets of equal size or with diplomatic posturing. We didn't ask for rights. We didn't beg to join their councils. We simply showed up with rusted guns, rewired hulls, rogue AI companions, and a level of human madness they'd never calculated for, and that terrified them more than any armada ever could. The Empire's first real mistake was trying to censor us. They shut down over 200 public intersystem networks, blocked communication hubs, enforced rigid curfews in border sectors. They even passed a law, Decree 904, that officially labeled any human warship as intergalactic terrorist equipment. But that just made us famous. You couldn't kill an idea with bureaucracy, especially Not ours, we weren't fighting for Earth anymore. Earth hadn't even said our names out loud in decades. Most of our people had never stepped foot on the surface. We were born in steel, on moons, rigs, hollowed-out asteroids. We were born in exile now. We were becoming a myth. The turning point came from an unexpected place, the planet Arvanis, deep within Empire territory. It was known as a cultural sanctuary, home to dozens of species, a jewel world untouched by war for centuries, neutral, soft, safe. Or it had been, until the Empire executed a human diplomat there in broad daylight. Her name was Dr. Ilara Keen. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't part of our fleet. She was a negotiator, sent years ago by Earth's corporate council to maintain peaceful trade rights. Always quiet, always calm. They didn't even put her on trial. Just called a public assembly, accused her of aiding terrorist warships, and vaporized her with a plasma lance, while her diplomatic immunity chip still glowed on her chest, and they broadcasted it to prove a point. That was their second mistake, because Dr. Keen had a son, a tech engineer named Micah Keen, stationed on an illegal moon lab in the Lorthan dust field. Quiet guy, loner, brilliant with neural interfaces. And 2 weeks after his mother was murdered, every holoscreen in the Empire glitched for exactly 37 seconds. It played a single image, her Dr. Keen smiling, standing under a twin sunset, holding hands with her young son. Then text in plain galactic common appeared. She asked for peace. You gave her death. We do not forget. That was Micah's way of declaring war. After that, things got strange. Ships started malfunctioning, but only Empire ones. Life support systems randomly failed mid-journey. AI assistants started whispering odd messages. In some cases, Empire warships found entire data cores rewritten with human poetry, war footage, and ancient Earth music. Some thought it was sabotage. Some thought it was psychological warfare. But those of us who knew Micah, we just smiled. He was everywhere now. Micah had turned himself into code, a fragmented consciousness distributed across thousands of nodes, relays, and forgotten systems. He wasn't fully human anymore, more like a ghost in the wires, and he chose to haunt the Empire. His favorite trick was the mirage. Hack, where a warship's sensors would start, seeing phantom human fleets, dozens of them, surrounding their ship. The first few times it happened, Empire commanders opened fire on empty space. By the 5th or 6th time, the officers just stared, afraid to even move, because how do you fight something you can't touch? Micah didn't kill. He didn't destroy. He made them question reality. And that was worse. Meanwhile, our movement grew faster than we could manage. Small rebel cells began painting free will on station walls. Non-human colonies, once afraid to speak out, began requesting our protection. And in the shadows of black markets and deep space hubs, the term human-made suddenly meant dangerous, reliable, and untraceable. We became the galaxy's new undercurrent, but all movements carry weight. And ours was no different. Not everyone believed in the cause. We received a message from a fringe system called Veltrin Kai, home to a former Earth-based settlement that had peacefully assimilated into the Empire decades ago. They were afraid. They begged us not to draw attention to them. If you fight, we suffer, their representative said. We've built lives here, quiet ones. We don't want your war. It was the first time I realized not all humans wanted freedom. Some just wanted safety. Mireia read the message twice. Then she looked at me and said something I'll never forget. Revolution is never clean, Rafe, but it's always a choice. So, we left Veltrin Kai alone for now, but not everyone else got that mercy. Because just a week later, the Empire used our silence as an excuse and firebombed the entire colony from orbit. 3 million dead. No warning, no trial. Just ashes and silence. They blamed it on terrorist sympathizers. They called it a necessary purge. That was their third mistake. The retaliation came not from us, but from someone the Empire didn't even know existed. An old Earth ship, long thought lost. The Echo Black, a stealth cruiser, buried in the gravitational well of a dead star for over 20 years. No signal, no heat. Just waiting. They say its captain, Anya Solari, never forgave Earth for abandoning the outer colonies. Never trusted anyone, not even humans. But Veltrin Kai, that was her home. And when it burned, she came back with vengeance older than steel. The Echo Black dropped into Empire space under a false IFF tag, attached itself to a cargo barge, and detonated a gravity mine inside the heart of the Altherin Armada, destroying 5 cruisers, an entire fuel station, and a classified dreadnought in one blast. No warning. No mercy and no survivors. She left a single message behind. If you come for our people, we'll make your gods bleed. That wasn't war anymore, that was something else, something worse. By now, the Empire was splitting. Their outer governors no longer trusted their admirals. Their admirals no longer trusted the Central Command. Every message they sent internally was now second-guessed, filtered, reviewed for human subversion. Paranoia rotted them faster than we ever could. One of our intelligence moles, an alien named Sarek, who worked as a translator for the Empire, told us that a new term was being whispered inside the Imperial elite. The human plague. Not because of death tolls, but because we were spreading in ways they couldn't control. We weren't just killing ships, we were killing their control. Inside our own ranks. Things shifted too. We stopped calling ourselves a fleet. We became something else, the fracture line, not a military. Not a nation. A living crack in the Empire's mask. Mireia stopped using her rank. Juno stopped using fleet numbers. We became storytellers, soldiers, hackers, poets, engineers, weapons. A million different kinds of chaos, all moving toward one unspoken goal, freedom. And as for me, I stopped being Brat. I became Rafe Munro, Warden of the Edge, Defender of the Forgotten, and the boy who once learned to shoot railguns before algebra. Now, I led fire teams into places the Empire swore were unreachable, and every time we struck, every time we showed them that humans don't forget, don't surrender, and don't die quietly, I could feel the galaxy shifting, one star at a time. We were winning. That was the terrifying part, not just surviving, not just holding our own. We were actually winning. System by system, world by world, the Empire was losing ground. Not because of brute force, no. They still had fleets 20 times our size. But they'd lost the narrative. That invisible thread that held everything together. People believed in us now. Not just humans. Aliens too. Species once loyal to the throne now looked at our movement and saw something the Empire couldn't give them anymore. Hope. It should have felt like triumph, but instead, it felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, with the wind at your back. One wrong move and everything would go down with you. We didn't talk about it much, but you could feel it creeping into the silence. Exhaustion, doubt, paranoia. Mireia was changing, not publicly. On the bridge, she was still Iron, still the captain who took on a dreadnought with half a fleet and won. But in private, I'd catch her staring at the hollow charts too long, rubbing the bridge of her nose when no one was looking. Skipping meals. Skipping sleep. You okay? I asked her once after a late debrief. She didn't answer right away. Just glanced at the viewport. We were cruising through a debris field, one of ours. Ship fragments drifting, light still flickering. That was the Sparrow Blade, she said quietly. I nodded. We'd lost it 3 days ago during a recon op near the Lysari trade route. Ambushed, outnumbered. No survivors. Mireia's voice was low, flat. Their XO was 21, barely out of training. We all knew the risks, I said, did we? She asked. Then, without looking at me, how many more are you willing to lose before this stops feeling like justice and starts looking like revenge? I didn't have an answer, because I didn't know either. That week we hit a major Empire convoy near the Brellian Drift, 5 carriers, loaded with weapons, food, fuel, enough to power a mid-tier garrison for 6 months. We expected resistance. Instead, we found something else. Prisoners, thousands of them. Human, alien, hybrid. Civilians, mostly. Scientists, teachers, former diplomats. All packed into containment chambers with just enough air to keep them alive. Just enough sedation to keep them quiet. The Empire had stopped killing us now. They were harvesting us. We cracked open the first carrier, and I'll never forget the smell, not rot. Not death, despair. Rows of faces, pale and blank, like their souls had already left and just forgot to take their bodies. When we pulled them out, some didn't speak. Others screamed. A few just cried. One little girl kept repeating the same sentence over and over. I didn't say anything. It made me want to burn the stars. Juno Way stood at the edge of the chamber, watching. I walked up beside her, heart thudding, fists clenched. They're using civilians as leverage, I said. Juno nodded slowly. They've moved past politics. This is terror management now. And the worst part? It was working. People were starting to turn on us, not all of them. Not even most. But enough. Colonies on the edge of Empire space were sending encoded messages begging us to stop, saying our actions were bringing punishment down on them, saying they supported us but couldn't afford to prove it. It was quiet betrayal, the kind done out of fear, not malice, and it hurt. Mireia called a war council that night. Every ship captain, every squad leader. The bridge of the free will was filled with ghosts and legends, and people too young to carry this much responsibility. She stood in front of the massive projection screen showing every system we'd liberated, every battle we'd fought, every ship we'd lost. Then she looked at us with eyes that had seen too much. We need to make a choice, she said. The room fell dead silent. We're close to something. I can feel it. The Empire's afraid. They're fractured. If we press hard enough, we could break them. But if we do that, we'll bring every hammer they've got down on us. All at once, she turned the screen again. It zoomed in on a world called Zark Prime. Zark is where the Empire stores its shipwright cores. AI brains, dreadnought designs. Their whole military soul lives there. It's unguarded right now, barely defended, because they don't think anyone would be stupid enough to hit it. I could feel the tension in the room. Hitting Zark would be suicide. It would also be historic. Juno leaned forward. And if we pull it off? We take away their ability to mass-produce new ships, maybe for decades, and we send a message that no place is safe from us. Someone else, Sorin from the Talon Verge, spoke next. And if we fail, they track us, hunt us, kill the rest of our allies. We lose the war. No one spoke. Mireia scanned the room. I won't order this. Not like the old commanders used to. We built this together and we die by vote, not by command. She raised her hand. All in favor of striking Zark. Raise your hand. I didn't even hesitate. My hand was the first to go up. Then Juno. Then half the room. Then more. Until it was nearly unanimous, Mireia nodded. Then it's decided. We break the Empire's spine. Or we die trying. The operation would take 3 weeks to coordinate. We moved in silence. No broad-spectrum comms. No visible movements. Just whispers across dead relays and dark space markers. We called it Operation Starfall. 15 ships. 200 commandos. One shot. Zark Prime looked peaceful when we arrived. A soft blue planet, ringed by glowing satellites and quiet orbital stations. The kind of place you'd imagine raising kids, not building death engines. But beneath the clouds, a factory world pulsed, churning out warships, AI constructs, tracking systems. The nerve center of Empire military control. Our plan was simple. Disable the orbital relay, land a strike team, hack the AI cores, and upload a virus Micah had written just for this moment. One shot. One moment. The first phase went smoothly. Too smoothly. We took out the orbital net in under 2 minutes. My squad, Phantom Red, led the infiltration. I was back in my drop armor, railgun strapped to my back, breath sharp in my lungs. We landed on the outer quadrant of the central fabrication complex. Swarmed it, breached clean, but inside, something was wrong. It was empty, no resistance, no guards, no alarms, just long halls filled with cold metal, silent machines, and inactive AI cores floating in suspension fluid. We reached the mainframe. Micah's virus was ready. I slipped the data rod into the terminal. That's when the lights turned red. All squads. Fall back! I shouted. But the doors sealed shut. The entire complex was a trap. Zark had never been vulnerable. They'd let us come. And now they were closing the net. Above us, in orbit, the free will was already taking fire. Empire ships dropped out of warp by the dozens. Dreadnoughts, interceptors, command ships. They'd lured us in with the sweetest bait imaginable. And now they were going to erase us. We fought like cornered animals. Micah managed to upload part of the virus, but not all of it. We scrambled for extraction, took hits, lost people. I saw Sarek go down taking out a fusion core with nothing but a plasma grenade and a curse. I saw Juno's ship crippled mid-warp. Engines fried. I watched the free will spiral out of control. Fire blooming across its hull. We barely escaped. Half the fleet didn't. Zark was hell. But as we limped away, bleeding and broken, something miraculous happened. Micah's virus may not have fully deployed, but it had spread enough to cause malfunctions, enough to glitch the Empire's fleet coordination, enough to show them that even in failure, we left a scar. Mireya's final broadcast from the free will, before her signal went dark, played across the system. You think this is victory? You think killing us erases the truth? We are the fracture. We are the ones who remember. And there will always be more of us, free, angry, human. Then silence. We don't know if she made it, but the galaxy heard her. And now, the stars are listening. We didn't call it a retreat. We didn't have to. Everyone felt it. After Zark Prime, what was left of the fleet scattered. Some jumped to friendly ports. Others drifted into dead zones with barely functioning engines. A few didn't make it out at all, burning. Spinning wrecks lost in the silence between stars. The free will was gone. The last we saw of her was through shattered camera feeds, fire chewing through the port side. Systems offline. Mireya's voice crackling through static. She never gave an order to abandon ship. She never asked for help. She just stayed. Fighting, defiant to the last second, and then nothing. That silence did something to us. She wasn't just our captain. She was our spine. Our voice. The force that held this whole impossible rebellion together through grit and certainty. Without her, the center buckled. For days I couldn't speak. Couldn't eat. I sat in the cargo bay of the Soul's Edge, watching old battle footage, rewinding the moment when her voice cut out. She was gone, and with her, we lost more than a ship. We lost the why. What were we fighting for now? Revenge? Survival? Was that all we had left? Juno tried to hold things together. She gathered the remaining captains on the Krakatoa, tried to rally us, tried to keep us focused. But grief doesn't listen to orders, and neither do war-weary ghosts. 3 weeks passed, no strikes, no movement. The Empire declared victory across 5 major systems, claiming our forces were eliminated, our rebellion crushed, and for a moment, they weren't entirely wrong. We were hiding, bleeding, waiting. It was Micah who found me, or rather what was left of him. His voice came through a portable relay embedded in my bunk's console. At first I thought it was interference, just scrambled code bouncing around the comms net. Then I heard him say my name. Rafe, not a recording, not a ghost, just Micah, fragmented, distributed, but alive, barely. I need your help, he said. There's something I didn't tell anyone. Something she knew about. Something she was protecting. He paused. Something the Empire's been afraid of since before they signed the treaty. I sat up, heart pounding. You knew Mireya was going to Zark. Yes, he said. Because she believed in something bigger than a war. Something ancient. What are you talking about? He hesitated. Then, in a whisper, the Forge. Most people think humanity's golden age ended with Earth's isolation, that we reached into space, burned fast and bright, then got stomped into silence by an empire too big to defy. But that's not the full story, because there's another side of history. One the Empire buried: old ships, lost archives, derelict human stations that vanished without a trace. Technologies we were too advanced to build back then. Ships powered by antimatter, weapons that ignored shields, AI that felt like gods. Micah called it the Forgotten Age. And the Forge? That was the key. Not a weapon, not exactly. It was a creation engine, a sentient builder, buried in the crust of a rogue planet, hidden deep in black space, a place where signals didn't travel, where gravity warped like water, where even the Empire refused to go. Mireya had known. She'd been looking for it for years. And now, the last clue to its location had been uploaded into Micah's broken memory. I knew what I had to do. I called a meeting, not with captains, not with commanders, with survivors. 27 of us gathered on the Soul's Edge. No formal uniforms, no rank. Just scarred rebels and broken soldiers who hadn't given up yet. I told them what Micah had told me. At first, no one believed it. A forge. A machine that could build warships from thought, from raw code and emotion. It sounded like a myth, but Juno didn't blink. I've seen stranger, she said. The Empire built its entire doctrine on fear. Maybe this was the one thing they feared first. And just like that, hope crept back in, not flashy. Not loud, just a flicker in the dark. We called the mission Ashlight. It wasn't a battle. It wasn't a strike. It was a pilgrimage. To find the Forge, to finish what Mireya started. We stripped our ships for speed and stealth. No full fleet. Just 3 vessels. The Soul's Edge, the Krakatoa, and the Lament Song. A Scout-class carrier retrofitted with deep space traversal engines. Micah led the way. His voice, carried across every console and neural uplink, was weaker than before, scattered, sometimes glitching. But his mind was still sharp. "Head to coordinates 941 TL Black," he said. "You'll see a star that shouldn't exist." He wasn't wrong, the star was cold. Dead, but orbiting it was something else. A planet unlike anything we'd seen. No atmosphere. No surface structures. Just smooth black stone, scarred with ancient impact craters. No signs of life. No signals. But our sensors pinged something beneath the crust, a pulse like a heart. To sleep, we landed. Gravity was unstable. Magnetic fields surged like waves. Even the air in our suits felt thicker. Every step was like walking through syrup and shadow. We found an entrance, not carved, not built. Grown. The walls of the underground tunnel weren't stone. They were metal, alive and humming, as if the planet itself had been seeded by something not human. But deeply connected to us. Deeper and deeper we went, until we reached it. A chamber the size of a cathedral, filled with swirling particles of light, shifting blueprints, ancient ships flickering in and out of projection. At the center, a massive sphere half submerged in molten rock, the forge. It knew we were there. Lights pulsed. Walls trembled. Our comms lit up. Then Micah, his voice clearer than it had been in days, whispered, "It's asking for her." "Mireia?" I asked. "Yes, or someone who remembers her. Someone who carries her code." That's when it hit me. Before she died, Mireia had handed me a necklace. Just a simple piece of fused metal shaped like a broken circle. "This was given to me," she said. "One day you'll know why I took it out." Held it up, and the forge opened, not with doors, with memory. A burst of data flooded the room. Visions of Earth's old wars, ships we never knew we built, AI we never understood, armies that shattered suns. And Mireia, young, fierce, desperate, standing inside this very chamber years ago, speaking to a voice that sounded like stars whispering through glass. "One day," she had said, "they'll come back. And when they do, give them what they need. Let them finish what we started," the forge responded. It pulsed once, and then it began to build right in front of us, raw metal twisted in midair. Circuits sparked. A hull took shape, sleek, black, unlike anything we'd flown. No engines. No guns. Not yet. The forge wasn't just building ships, it was building options, and it needed us to choose. When we returned to the surface, something had changed. The sky felt thinner. Time moved slower. We were different. Connected. The forge had marked us. Micah's voice returned, full strength now, almost human again. "The Empire will come," he said. "They'll track this. They'll try to bury it again." "They can try," I said, "because this time we weren't just a fleet, we were the future. And the forge. The forge was our answer, not just to win, but to evolve." They came faster than we expected. 3 days after the forge woke, Empire scout drones entered the system. They didn't linger, they didn't need to. They saw the impossible, structures forming mid-air, technology beyond modern comprehension, human ships born out of light and raw intent, and they fled, warping back toward Empire space at maximum burn. We didn't have time to chase because the forge had begun to change us. Not just our tech, not just our ships, it started small. The moment we linked with the forge's interface, when its strange living metal wove itself into the consoles of our vessels, everything became more. Our ships stopped running on code. They began responding to instinct, thought, emotion. Felt it the first time in the pilot's chair of the Soul's Edge. I reached for a manual thruster control and felt the ship anticipate me. Like it knew what I wanted before I did. Then came the weapons test. We aimed at a drifting meteor to calibrate the forge-borne railgun, now pulsing with molten silver veins instead of circuitry. I barely touched the trigger. The shot fired without hesitation, spiraling with energy I couldn't explain. And the meteor didn't just crack, it disintegrated. Obliterated on a molecular level, Juno watched wide-eyed. That wasn't standard rail. "No," I said quietly. "That was something else." The forge had awakened forgotten code, ancient neural link tech that once required direct DNA input. But now it ran on something deeper. Memory. It was feeding off our Scars, our grief, our losses, and it was building. Weapons in our image. The Krakatoa was the first ship to complete full integration. Her hull shifted in real time, adapting to incoming gravity wells and electromagnetic interference. Her crew reported being able to feel attacks before they landed. One gunner, Elise Tan, said she saw an incoming missile in a dream seconds before it appeared on sensors. And when it did, she fired without looking, hit it mid-flight. It wasn't just upgrades, it was evolution. But evolution comes at a price. One of our engineers on the Lament song, a kid named Ravel, began having seizures after being exposed to the Forge's core drive. His body wasn't ready. His nervous system overloaded trying to connect. He survived, barely, but his hair turned white overnight. And now, he speaks in phrases we don't understand, strings of old Earth dialect, mixed with symbols from Empire AI. Is he okay? I asked Micah one day, watching Ravel hum to the ship's engine like it was a lullaby. Micah's voice was distant, different. He's not okay. He's becoming. By the end of the week, we had 4 Forge-born ships ready, each one unique, no 2 hulls the same, no single schematic. The Forge didn't duplicate. It interpreted. Each ship represented the soul of its crew, their rage, fear, hope, desire. It didn't give us what we asked for. It gave us what we needed. Mine was called the Ember Wake, sleek, black, silent, no windows, no screens. Just a neural tether that connected to my spine the moment I sat in the command seat. I felt every hum of the hull, every pulse of the core. When the ship breathed, I breathed with it. It was terrifying and perfect. We didn't build these ships, we became them. The Empire didn't sit idle. The moment their scouts returned, they began amassing what they called Purge Fleet Zero, a doomsday armada designed for one thing: annihilation. They weren't coming to conquer. They were coming to erase. Micah intercepted a transmission. It was chillingly short. Initiate final protocol. No survivors. No monuments. No memory. It was poetic. In a twisted way. They feared what the Forge represented, not just resistance, not just defiance, but legacy. They wanted to make sure nothing remained. They wanted to make the stars forget we ever existed. Couldn't let that happen. We gathered our ships in orbit above the Black Star system, the Forge called home. 37 vessels total, most of them old, scarred, mismatched, and 5 new, the Forgeborn. We didn't have numbers, we didn't have symmetry, we had will. I stood on the bridge of the Ember Wake, surrounded by my old team, Juno aboard the Krakatoa. Sarek alive after all. Turns out he'd faked his death during the Zarkop. And Ravel, now stable. Sort of. He stared at the view screen, whispering in a language that made my bones itch. Ravel, I asked, what are you saying? He turned to me, eyes glowing faintly silver now. They're coming through the dark. They're afraid. And they should be. Purge Fleet Zero entered the system 12 hours later. 64 capital ships, 9 dreadnoughts, 1 command citadel, 20 kilometers long, shielded by a rotating cloud of plasma drones and AI turrets. The last time we faced numbers like that, we lost Mireia, but this time we were different. We didn't charge, we listened, let the Forge hum, let it speak, and then we let the ships move on their own. The Forgeborn didn't need orders. They felt the war coming like a heartbeat, and when it hit, it was like watching gods bleed. The Krakatoa blinked in and out of phase, reappearing behind the lead dreadnought and firing a triple blast through its spinal cord. The dreadnought folded in half like paper. The Lament song extended its hull into a living spear, piercing 3 interceptors in a single. Fluid strike. My ship, the Ember Wake, danced literally. It moved like it was alive, like it was happy, like it had waited its whole life to be unleashed. Every thought I had it executed. Faster than I could process. It wasn't just combat, it was symphony. A war composed in real time by rage, memory, and machine. The Empire tried to respond. They coordinated perfectly, moved in tight flanks, fired in unity. It didn't matter, they were predictable, and the Forge had made us the opposite. We were chaos refined into precision, and we tore them apart. It wasn't perfect, we still lost ships. The Iron Hallow took a drone swarm to the vent. Systems and burned from the inside out. The Broken Star sacrificed itself to take out the command. Citadel's Shield Corps people died, friends, names I'll never forget, but this time we didn't break, we broke them. And when the last dreadnought imploded, its captain choosing self-destruction over surrender, the system fell silent no more. Shots, no more movement, just wreckage and breathing Junos. Voice came through comms. Is it done? I looked out the viewport, at the glowing corpse of an empire that once tried to erase us. No, I said, not yet, because war doesn't end with victory. It ends with truth. We broadcast everything, the forge, the battle, the Empire's last command order. The images of burning prisons, the sound of Mireya's voice as she made her last stand. We sent it to every system, every planet, every satellite, not encrypted, not filtered, just raw, painful, real. Within days, Empire systems began to revolt. Governors resigned. Fleets surrendered. 1,000 voices began asking the question the Empire never wanted to hear. What else did they lie about? And for the first time in memory, humanity wasn't at the bottom. We were the spark. Micah's voice returned, stronger now. Stable. I've finished syncing with the forge. I'm not just a fragment anymore. What are you then? I asked. There was a long pause. I'm legacy, and so are you. The forge continues to build, not for war but for rebirth, ships, tools, archives, and something new, a dream network. A place where stories are shared not through words but feeling. A tapestry of memory accessible to all. Mireya's story was the first one added. Her voice, her choices, her defiance, woven into the code of every new vessel born not as a commander, but as a foundation. We still don't know how far this will go. We don't know what comes after an empire falls, but I do know one thing. Humanity was never weak. We were underestimated, and now the stars remember our name. Peace didn't come with parades, it came with silence, the kind that settles in after something enormous ends. A strange kind of quiet, not restful but uncertain. Like the galaxy itself was holding its breath, unsure of what it had just witnessed. The Empire wasn't dead, not entirely, but it was fractured. Its outer systems declared independence. Its core sectors entered lockdown. Civil wars erupted between governors loyal to the old order and those who now saw that order for what it had always been, a cage. We didn't have to destroy the Empire, we just had to expose it, and once we did, it began tearing itself apart. That was Mireya's plan all along, not conquest, liberation. The forge remains active, orbiting that cold, dead star like a silent sentinel. It doesn't speak anymore, not in words. It listens. It remembers. It creates not just weapons now, it builds farms, habitats, civilian crafts, libraries of memory encoded in crystal and light, each one laced with fragments of the rebellion, of those who fought and died and refused to be forgotten. Ships don't need captains to be built here, they just need purpose, and the galaxy has no shortage of that anymore. Visit the memorial chamber once a week, not because I'm supposed to, because I need to. It's on the soul's edge deep in the heart of the ship. We hollowed out an old cargo bay and lined the walls with names, etched by hand one by one, by every surviving crew member. Mireya's name is at the center. Her final words play on a loop, projected in soft light. We are not perfect. We are not clean, but we are free. And freedom remembers. Every time I hear it, I feel something in my chest tighten. Not grief, pride. Micah speaks to me through the core now. He doesn't call himself Micah anymore. Not exactly. His voice is steadier, deeper, threaded with something ancient and gentle. I've taken a new designation, he told me last week. Not as a leader, as a steward. What name? I asked. He paused, almost sheepish. Solace. Fitting. Because what he gives people now isn't war, it's understanding. He helps those who survived rediscover themselves. Not through orders or doctrine, but through connection. He guides new colonies through rebuilding, offers counseling networks through holographic dreams, and even teaches children about the war. Without the blood, just the truth. Micah Solace is the heart of the new network, not an empire, not even a government, just a loosely woven alliance of systems that remember what it means to be free. And refuse to ever forget. We call it the Ember Accord. It started with 10 systems. Now it has over 100, not all human. That's what makes it real. Aliens who once fought us, now build with us. Former Empire officers have laid down their weapons and taken up new roles. Healers, teachers, translators. Some still hate us. Some always will, but they're allowed to, because that's what freedom means. No one is forced to forget. We remember together. Juno and I still fly, not always as commanders, sometimes just as scouts. As explorers, we took the Krakatoa beyond the old empire borders once, past the edge of any charted system. We found ruins, old war relics, evidence that we weren't the first rebellion to rise, and maybe not the last. She asked me one night, sitting beneath a quiet star, "Do you think we'll ever need to fight again?" I didn't answer right away. I looked at the stars. Then I said, "I hope not. But if we do, we won't be unprepared this time," and she nodded, like she already knew that answer. Because the truth is, peace isn't permanent, but memory is, and we've built a galaxy where remembering is sacred. Sarek returned to his homeworld. He was welcomed as a hero by some, a traitor by others. He didn't care. He built a school, one that teaches history from all perspectives: empire, rebellion, alien, human. He says the next war can only be prevented if the truth is shared, not erased. He sent me a message last month, a simple note. "You didn't just save us. You gave us the courage to save ourselves." I keep it bookmarked in my neural log. As for Ravel, he's not entirely human anymore. The Forge changed him in ways we still don't understand. His eyes glow. His blood runs with nanite particles that fuse with ship systems. He can read code like poetry, and speaks to machines like they're old friends. Some fear him. Others call him the first of a new generation. He just smiles and tells people, "I'm not better. I'm just different." Like all of us now, he doesn't pilot ships, he becomes them. And the Forge listens to him like it listens to no one else. Maybe he's the next phase of what humanity becomes. I don't know, but I trust him because he remembers. We never rebuilt Earth's military. Not the way it was. We didn't want to. Too many governments. Too many flags. Too many secrets wrapped in shiny uniforms. Instead, we built a council. Each ship gets a voice. Each world gets a say. There's no president. No supreme commander. No single seat of power to corrupt. Just shared memory, shared story, shared purpose. I still dream of Mireia. Sometimes, usually in quiet places, starfields, empty ships. In one dream, I'm walking through the halls of the free will, and she's sitting in the captain's chair, looking out at nothing. I sit beside her, and she turns to me and says, "Did they remember us?" And I say, "They do now." Then I wake up, always with tears in my eyes, not because I miss her, because she was right. They tried to erase us, tried to ban us from the stars, tried to lock our warships in memory, pretend we were too primitive, too chaotic, too human to matter. But we mattered. We fought back. We rewrote the rules. And when the Empire falls, and it will, its last breath will be haunted by the echo of every name they tried to silence. We are not just rebels. We are not just survivors. We are the fracture that broke the silence. We are the warships that weren't allowed to exist. We are the ones who refused to disappear. We are human, and this time, the galaxy will never forget us.